Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Commerce, Coffee, and Cabernet, but also maybe beers, Savannas, and whatever else you have in your podcast studio. We're incredibly excited to have a really fun chat with Daneel Steinmann. And
guys,
hello. We have Destiny Washan, my co-host, and then myself, Gabby Fillion.
Gabby, why are we drinking ciders on the Commerce Coffee Cabernet podcast?
We are in beautiful Cape Town, South Africa, my hometown. I'm incredibly excited. It's why our first guest is actually a South African brand who's done some phenomenal things. I chatted to you earlier, you and your brother, and you guys said, are you a rugby fan? I said, yes. You could cut me open and I bleed green and gold. And so this brand, they've done some phenomenal stuff over the last few years, and we're just really excited to chat about their story.
Oh, awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you.
So let's kick things off. Tell us your story.
So actually, it's funny. I know actually Destiny back from the Amazon days. So I actually used to work, or actually spearhead a e-commerce regulation tech business in a big VAT group. And I actually got to play business with Monopoly money. So, we were sponsoring events back when the aggregators entered the Amazon space. So, I think dropped 50,000 on a party in Vegas and stuff. And I think if it's not your own money, it's so easy to just spend. But it also was really cool because I got to see how big the world of commerce is. And ironically, just the size of the US market. I think as you, Gabby, myself and my brother, we are incredibly like massive Springbok fans. I think like almost any South African. And I think when we looked at like the e-commerce landscape initially, we just looked at the size of Fanatics back in the day, and we thought, how does Fanatics have a larger market cap than Adidas and Puma combined? And I just thought to myself, surely building a supporters-orientated business will be easier than trying to build Adi and Puma or them both combined, right? And I think that's what led us to start Old School. I think our niche was sort of like picking out this sort of more premium angle on supporters wear, sort of like a Mitchell and Ness in the US. But I think for long, purely based, because we were just absolutely, in Afrikaans, you could say bok befok. So we were just mad about the Springboks. And for us, we just saw this opportunity to, sounds a bit cringy to say it, but unite South Africa one jersey at a time. And in the process, we actually did a pretty good job. I think we initially didn't understand IP, so we couldn't get a Springbok license. So we used our interpretation of a supporters wear jersey. And then I think what was crazy is we always thought naively, I thought they sell millions and millions of units of Springbok jerseys a year. And then last year we got sued by the Springboks. And then we went to sort of like off the record chatting and asked why. And they said, well, you've sold more jerseys than the Springboks have sold. And I said, impossible. And it turned out if you sell 100,000 units of it, it's pretty much half of the market. And I think we said, why not 1 + 1 is 3? And in short, we're now producing the all-field range for the Springboks. I think that led us to understand that there's so much space to do this with other passionate clubs and teams, and slowly but surely, at least from the tip of Africa for now, aggregating and building a premium supporters business and really figuring out how to build our moat in high quality product and storytelling.
Yes.
So,
the storytelling is a big one. I think you guys do a phenomenal job with the content around things as well. But, one thing that Destiny and I were chatting about earlier is also that, other manufacturers, I'll say, behind the sportswear, they don't tie their own brand to it so well. And it's a really great thing that you've done with Old School is you've still done such a phenomenal job of brand building of Old School. And so you've got consumers and shoppers that are coming in that might be Stillnox fans, they might be Springboks fans, and I think your more recent releases with Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, phenomenal. We can chat about that too. But you've also got so many consumers that are coming in for Old School. They're so proudly South African.
No. Let's pause there. This brand building is so good that I, as a non-South African, was scrolling my LinkedIn feed and recognized the brand. And that's something that I think is truly incredible. Obviously, Gabby and I are good friends, and I'm very familiar of everything rugby because she drags me along to a lot of love of the games. And I was looking at jerseys 1.5, 2 years ago, and fast forward to 6 months ago, I'm scrolling LinkedIn. I see a reel that you had done on the brand, and I immediately had the brand recall and was like, holy crap, I know this person. and was able to bridge the
Mm-hmm.
gap. And I think that says so much about it is so much more in the community. You have done a
Yes.
fantastic job of storytelling and creating that brand recall and the recognition across borders.
Yeah, very much across borders. And I know that that's something that's on
Yeah.
the vision board for going
Yeah.
across borders as well. But even just talking about the local South African market, how was that jump switching over to the Springboks branding, and to now you've jumped over to Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, and there is broader. There's still so much opportunity here in South Africa
Yeah.
as well. Like you don't want to take your
No.
eye off of the prize that is here, but there is a lot of opportunity. The expats
Yes.
in the UK and in the
Yes.
US that we chat about. I would like to walk into an old school shop in Boca Raton Mall or
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that. So that's on the vision board at
Yeah,
some
Gabs,
point.
you're definitely our sort of profile shopper. You're money passionate and cares about good quality. So,
Yep.
so I think as you say, I think South Africa almost see as like an incubator for learnings, because you can win hard, but your failures are mimicked. Like your downwards, like you can win big, but I don't feel there's that much on the table to lose, because you sort of understand. So you can take bets, but we swing sometimes and we miss, but it's just because it's not a beast, it can't suck us in
Yes.
anymore. At least from an OPEX team perspective, we can handle. So I feel on the one side, I think how we were able to jump between Springboks and like culturally a completely different brand and like more like your local football is, I think with any brand, there's certain things that makes the brand tick. When you think Springboks, it's Rassie, it's the player, it's the unity, it's the camaraderie. Like for them, it's completely different. So I think it's just understanding whoever you work with and knowing, like almost putting yourself in. From our brother who's the creative director, what do their fans care about? Because the lingo and the language a Harvard grad, for instance, talk is very different than a rugby fan or whatever. And there's similarities in like copywriting, messaging, but like the type of content, the location for shoots, it all can translate to what's unique for a specific fan, So like, let's say you take the Dallas Cowboys, for example. Like there's I don't have the answer now, but if you do a little bit of research and you understand what makes their fans so passionate, you utilizing that elements in your copy, content, and angle for stuff makes someone that don't know you but know them buy into that. And I think how old school ties itself into it is just it's more just a way of positioning content like with a specific like feel to it, like almost like it's a more nostalgic, like premium, vintage, old school way of doing content.
Look, absolutely. I think everything that you summarized there is obsessing over getting the small things right, and getting into just putting yourself in the shoes of whoever that target audience is, and that can be translated. We chat about that in whatever our work conversations are. I think that you guys have done a phenomenal job of building the brand in that way, but advertising is a lot that way. It's all about the psychology of just getting the small things right and not trying to gloss over that, because that's how you get niche enough and broad enough in the same way.
So I think what's also cool is like any campaign, like our sort of Euro formula is like make one epic launch video, but when you make a good video, like in the process, you end up getting 8 or 9 different shoots and contents and location. Like the video never becomes your driver on your ads ever, but that's just the brand recognition, the cool thing. But that thing takes the most time, but you reap 10 times more reward just on the stills and the content that comes from the back. The backup shooter is actually more important than the guy with the video content. But it's just like, when you try and do something great, the small areas get picked up because you planned a specific shoot, but then the way he sits or the angle you get and stuff. So I think the cool thing is when you try and tell a story, you, even if the story doesn't like, because sometimes you do all this hard work for launch video that just doesn't go viral, but you at least then cover up all the other elements that will also turn to actual like revenue from it.
Well, something else that I think relates to that your brother talked about earlier is just kind of multi-touch attribution, right? And I think that's something that you all have done so well. You weren't just concerned immediately with the bottom line. You weren't immediately concerned with the ROAS of the campaigns you were running. You had made a comment of, every time a fan wears your jersey to a stadium, that's so much exposure.
Yes.
I think in the beginning, a lot of brand owners, especially people who launch brands they're not necessarily passionate about, they get caught up in all of those details and don't necessarily keep the long-term vision.
Yes.
That's something that you all have done so well. You have videos that are going to drive awareness and exposure, but maybe not a conversion at the point in time.
No.
You're selling jerseys knowing that, it's going to be word of mouth. They're going to go tell their friends because it's a fantastic product. That's how I came across it before Gabby even knew. I bought it on my own.
She bought it before me. I was a little bit, I felt like a bad South African.
Yes. And then
She bleeds green.
I mean, but it's the word of mouth.
Yes.
You built something that people want to tell their friends about, and you don't see the immediate impacts.
No, exactly.
It takes time for a season to start and just, wear that jersey, and then 100 people see it.
Because I think it's so, I think it's a completely in a different industry, but they asked Warren Buffett, why does people not become a six figure? Because they're they just don't have the patience I have. Now, we don't even have that patience, but I think when you start anything, people always, as you say, they always want to make, bottom line from the beginning, where when you back your product hard enough, you can almost break even or lose a little bit in the first 500 units you sell. But the sooner you can sell that, the better, because there's a compound effect that comes from people buying into anything. And I think it's so hard for people that work with brands or owners that don't have that vision to understand how can you win someone. How can you beat your competitor if he's willing to lose and you're not? Right? Because how are you going to win? How are you going to win someone that's willing to work harder than you, but also lose money to build it? How are you going to beat him? Right? And I think that's sometimes where people struck luck and they have a Euro skew and it just runs, which we've had as well. But I think you can't build a good business based on luck. Right? You've got to have a formula for success. And that formula is usually not that hard, but it's just for other people too hard to do, right? It's actually easy, but no one does it.
Well, I think it's easy once you've figured that out, and the consistency is key, right? So what is brand equity? Brand equity is, and this brand that you have built though, but it's this lifestyle that people are buying into as well. It's not just, I don't just want the one, I want the wardrobe of it.
I want the new drops, the limited edition drops.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got so much clarity, I think, in what the brand stands for, and you're incredibly consistent with that. So it allows you to make some moves. It allows you to swing and miss a little bit as well. But I think the consistency is the key.
Well, the vision as well. You asked me right before we got started, how did I grow my LinkedIn following? I started 7 years ago. Yeah. And if I would have only focused on closing brand deals in the first 2 years, I would never have posted on LinkedIn again. But I had a vision of what I wanted my platform to be. My focus is on communication, education, which is now turned into a podcast with my best friend, where we get to, interview incredible entrepreneurs. You were so crystal clear on that vision. And I think it shows also how much you care about the product and what you are trying to give to the community. It's not just about the bottom line. I think that translates really well for you.
I think the other thing a lot of people miss is there's a guy called, he's a business called Culture Kings. He exited for $600 million. And he says when he did back in the day, his hack was influencer marketing, just always. And he says if he can do it all again, he would be super focused on founders content.
Yeah.
Because I think the world of and I think there's still a place for all of that, but I think even in the e-commerce space, it was so interesting. I remember when I worked, sometimes people at the Amazon space didn't even want to tell you what their brand name is because they're scared. You jump on their listings and stuff.
Someone's gonna copycat.
Yeah, so they'll just say I'm in this in the I'm in the beauty and health space. I'm like, how can you not be passionate about what you do? Right?
It's a get rich quick scheme. That's all they care about. Yeah.
But I think especially now, I think more and more, one of the reasons you guys like the brand, and hopefully it's also the product, but I think it's because the essence of this, the stories get told on the campaigns, but LinkedIn and how you, and podcast is where people actually resonate, because I think people buy from people these days more than they do from I think it's weird how much less of these brands are like going on TikTok and sharing with their audience how scared they are that their
Yes.
business is like
Yes.
gonna go under.
Human.
Human.
You want to speak
Humans
to humans.
want connection
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
And I think like I understand people are scared of jumping on listing stuff, but you want to almost build a business that's bulletproof enough that you can share what's going on, because I still think even if you're not likable, people want to just hear authentic content more than they care about. And that's what we still I'm okay on LinkedIn, but I'm not using other platforms well enough yet.
Yeah.
But I think that's also ironically very big part of brand building.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. People want to buy into that story.
Yes.
And I think, a lot of, certainly the primary market is South African, the South Africans, and they're incredibly proud. We're incredibly, proud people, but we also want to see one of our own succeed.
Yes.
And you have been a very prominent face of the brand. And so people are bought into that too, 100%.
Yeah. And people think they don't have cool stories, but like there's at least, and if you don't have one thing a week to write about, like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing, right? You have to ask yourself, you have to be able to try and because I think that's what you also did well, is like you made a consistent effort for 7 years to build a platform based on sharing stuff. But if you don't share stuff, what is people there for, right?
Yeah.
So,
and they make assumptions if you're not sharing.
Yes.
They see you on stage, or they hear about something that went wrong, and they make assumptions. But when you can go online in a very authentic manner, everyone who's probably listening to this point knows we had a very public mishap on LinkedIn, and it was our number one most viral post.
Yeah.
I was like, it was fantastic free sales and marketing at this point. I was like wanting to do some funky things with the P&L, just kidding. But in general, it's the authenticity that I think matters. It's how you handle yourself. And honestly, it's paid off so much. I mean, I love the community that we've built. We have multiple friends in this space. And when I found out you were in this community, it just made it so much more real to be like, oh, I have friends in this space that care, have the same interests, but we can sit and have coffee and talk about how terrible it is. Like, it's the connection that really translates for building a brand or an agency or just your career in general.
Yeah. Authenticity at all costs. I think that's a lot of feedback that I've received as a leader of teams, as someone who's come in maybe as an underdog in a team, in a high performing leadership team as well. And the biggest feedback that I've received has been my relatability of authenticity and kind of, again, people don't want to see a facade.
No.
They don't, and that's kind of what you're saying is the antithesis of the brand. If they're just sort of seeing the facade of the product and whatnot, but you're not telling the story behind it.
Yes.
That's what people are ultimately
100%.
connecting to, whether you're a person, a leader, an agency, or a brand.
100%.
Which I will say, all of us being close to 30, some of us younger than the others in the room. But I know you and I have had this conversation in the early stages. That's the hardest thing that we did. We did mask a lot because you're walking into a room and you're being incredibly insecure because you are younger than every other
100%.
person there. So you make up for your age by being like overly confident and like yourself.
I still do it. I think I found myself so many times like rounding up your age or like rounding up your accomplishments
because I'm like validation. For what? You've actually got so much validation.
No, I agree, but it just shows like, and I think that's also like, it's hard because on the one side it just shows like if people that are successful even struggle with it, how much. Where will people that don't have success yet even get the confidence to go for it? If the people that's supposed to be like they heroes also struggle their asses off just to like swallow up and give my true age. I don't know why, but it is weird. Like it's sort of. So I suppose for those that also listen that do struggle with it, like it's so important to note that like with success, that vulnerability doesn't really just fly out of the window.
It just moves. You
moves
move the
to new
goalposts.
heights.
Yes. That's something when Gabby and I were talking about starting this podcast, that was a really core aspect we want to discuss is being authentic and the struggles that we have. I mean, everyone in this room, incredibly, incredibly successful for our age. We've done amazing things. And that insecurity, that tendency to maybe not be as authentic as you can be when you're in the new role or you're in a new conference or you're doing something that you haven't done before, it still hits. But I think it's the people that continue to push through and show up. We talked about failing fast and making sure you're constantly kind of moving the
Yes.
needle, those are the people that will succeed.
Yeah, but talking about connection and community as well, I think that that's been a huge thing for my confidence as well. I remember your first invitation to speak and the times you said no because you thought, oh, I don't have the confidence to do so. And like now she's the most sought after speaker in our entire industry. And it's just kind of wild, but creating a community of like-minded individuals, huge opportunity, I think, to be able to just see behind the scenes and see that everyone's figuring things out as they're going along, and
no one shares that.
Yes.
And that's why I think this is so important for us, people
Coffee,
who
wine, girls. Like this is when it gets the
Yeah.
vulnerability
Cheers.
comes out.
Cheers. Yeah.
but this is why you need these people to realize that the people you look up to, the brands that you followed for years. I can pull up my Instagram messages from years ago at this point to you all, and I've looked up to you, and now I get to meet you in person and be like, he's human.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Why haven't
it's
I launched a brand?
contradiction. I think I look up to Destiny again. So it's like it's a turn of events. I think that it's very cool. I think what's also cool is how for those that reach the highest heights are people whose goalpost always changes. I think like as long there's another narrative just not being like comfortable, like never being comfortable with
the
whatever
status quo,
you do
yes.
and what you've done. Like I think like if 3 years ago Daneel were to be where I'm now, I would be super happy. Am I super happy? I'm super grateful. But do I think I'm only getting started?
Yes.
For sure. And I'm sure you guys feel the same. As you always just moving the goalpost of what true like success looks like without being ungrateful and like so I think the blends like not being comfortable but not being ungrateful ever. Because then if you the moment you can't like, for me it's a spiritual thing. For other people it could be whatever you believe in and what you are rooted on. But I think as long as you are always grateful but uncomfortable with where you want to go, I think you're a good wicket.
It's that balance though. That's been a huge thing that I think Destiny has guided me through. I've been in this mentality of moving the goalposts at all costs without ever pausing and reflecting for years. And it's, only actually really in the last year or so, last few months more aggressively, have I just been putting just pausing and reflecting and being more grateful and being proud and recognizing the small things, because the other side of it is just 150 miles per hour when
growth for what,
which is always now and then fun, but you can't be running
it's
at
not
that pace
sustainable. And then this is one thing that we talk about is why do we do what we do? Because we friggin' love it. Like we actually, even on the tough days, we actually love what we do. And you can't get to that place if you're not pausing and reflecting.
100%. I think it's like when you look at business, I think it's interesting how in a sports world, like those people are quite heroed for their discipline, and they like if you look at LeBron James, for instance, he's a good example of a top athlete, right? But LeBron ice baths, he rests, he tries to make sure he gets sleeps because he wants to be the best in this game. And I think ironically, entrepreneurship sometimes looks at like Elon Musk or whoever those are who just burns out to it. But I think there is so many like superstar world-class entrepreneurs that just take their careers like a professional athlete. Like it's about like being sustainably great. And how do you become sustainably great? Just looking after yourself, being well-rounded, sleeping well, working also for sure, but you can't do that 7 days a week, right? So it's finding that like balance in what you do, because I think sometimes like the entrepreneur default is to not stop, or just career like ladder climbing. It's just to never stop.
And if you
where
don't
it's
enjoy
contradiction to what. And sorry, you were saying?
If you don't enjoy it, what's the point? Which is a conversation we've had of like where you kind of seek validation from. But for me, in the early stages of entrepreneurship, I was caught up with like, I can do all these things. What do I focus on? What do I do? And something that really resonated with me is instead of focusing on everything I could accomplish, everything I could do, I started focusing on everything I didn't want to become or everything I didn't want to do. I didn't want to burn out. I didn't want to XYZ. And that helped me kind of narrow down and prioritize so much more. Like, I didn't want to do things for the validation of others. I wanted to do things like I wanted to work probably harder than most people in terms of hours, but have work-life balance so that way I can be in Cape Town and interview with you all.
Yeah.
And like when you choose and figure out your own happiness, you can optimize to that. You know, we all know what LeBron wants, and he optimizes his life for that. That could be very different from what I want. But it's really hard to identify that in the early stages because you get caught up on what everyone else is. It's comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing and like, oh, they're successful and they only sleep 3 hours. I should only sleep 3 hours. I'm like, oh,
I've always struggled with that one. I need a lot of sleep, friend. I guess I'm never going to be that top performing so-and-so. But
I will not be waking up at 4 a.m. and going to bed at midnight, or else no one will want to talk to me ever again.
Exactly.
No, been there, done that. Don't want to do that. But you touched on something that I think is probably a whole nother podcast in itself, but the athlete mindset transitioning into business. It's a big thing of Destiny's team is got a huge number of accidentally somehow, but there's a huge correlation between high performance athletes like Division I college athletes. I think it's a huge part of my career growth and excellence as well that I'm really proud of is my professional athlete career that I had. It feels like a whole nother world of Gabby, but Gabby was a top athlete in the world, and I learned how to fail more times before I was 16 than I think
most people ever.
Most people will in their career, you know, and I feel like those soft skills transitioned incredibly well over onto the business and entrepreneurship side of things. Because again, as you said, and I think I lost sight of this for a couple of years as well, but you have to rest. You have to figure out what filling up your cup
what
is.
What drives you? Like,
Destiny and I chat about this. You've only got so many energy units in a day, and how are you gonna invest those?
Yeah, exactly. Because like at the end of the day, like people are like, I love some marathon or a sprint. Yes, but have you seen the speed they run marathons at?
It's faster than my 5K time.
But I'm saying when they run that marathon,
I cried during my marathon.
But they literally run that marathon at some like mad paces. But if you think about it, they run that whole marathon. It's not, they don't sprint and then stop. They've conditioned themselves to be fit enough to run those type of paces. And I think similarly in business, it's becoming incredibly good at your like marathon life. Sprint, like it's not sprinting. It's just consistently being aware of you're preparing always to be able to be super fit. Like for other people, they can't keep 1K and they will start like. So for me, it's like, how do I become in 12? How's my 11 hours a day at a pace that other people can't do in 24 hours work? But do I want to switch off at 7:30 at night and like spend time with my wife? Absolutely. So it becomes my marathon is how can I work from 6 a.m. in the morning till 7:30 at night. That's my hard work pace, right? But that's for others it might be shorter. You know, when I'm going in 5 years through a phase of kids, that might look entirely completely different, right? But in your area, what's your sprint
you set the vision from the beginning, so you can work towards that, and that's the important
Yeah,
part.
the marathon, you know where you're running towards.
Yes, exactly. You have to have that timeline, and I think something else that you and I have talked about a lot as well is we are visionaries.
Yes.
We like to talk. We like to communicate. We like to tell our story. It's playing into your strengths and knowing that is your strength, that is your passion. This is what makes me happy so I don't burn out, and kind of finding that well-rounded balance between all of it.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to talk about it because I think as you say, there's just such a like alignment on what people think success looks like in an entrepreneurial world. Like they think it means complete sacrifice of everything else, which ironically it don't. I think you can have a much more balanced life entrepreneurial wise than you do sometimes in a corporate ladder world. 100%. I really think so.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Which is probably a good rounding out point. I think we may have to do a few mini episodes on mental health and
on a Minty Bees.
Minty Bees and athletics, but this went a slightly different direction than I was expecting, and you would have zero context of this. This is exactly what Gabby and I talked about wanting to do here. I'm going to tie it back to how you built a brand. It's leading authentically. no one knows what entrepreneurship actually looks like, because the only people who are going viral on Instagram are, the people that are splashing their face with water at 4 a.m. and running 3 marathons a day.
That is so addicting to watch, though.
Yes, it is great. I'm like, damn, I gotta turn on some Rocky theme songs and get going over here. But us sharing authentically, coming together in this room to give you brand guidance, how do you connect with your audience? How do you identify niche? But also the other side of the business, which is so much more. And it all relates, in my opinion. Like the principle of how you succeed is identifying what you want to accomplish, which was the vision. It's curating a audience and a message that aligns, and then just fucking doing it. Having the confidence to do it, which a lot of people don't.
You don't have to have it figured out, but just do it. Like it's literally, built the largest clothing brand in the world. And it will make you much, much more successful by just not overthinking it and doing it. There's no replacement for trying.
No, 100%. Well, friends, this has been fantastic. We are, wow.
On that note,
some of us
you can see the Americans struggle with their drinks.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, friends.
Cheers, bye.